Hello internet friends, my name is Catherine and I'm the human behind Christian Miss Couture, and today is a different episode because instead of doing a fade on skeins of yarn to create a garment, we're going to take a finished garment and we are going to dye that to create the fade that I'm hoping to achieve. So there won't be as much explanation during the dye process because it's pretty boring, but we're going to have a little talk at the end with the final results on the process that went through my mind, which is basically why I chose to use pots instead of using catering pans. So let's get into this. Hello everyone. So I've already, oh no, it's fallen. Have a 1% depth of shade of Deep Magenta here. And I just turned on the heat already because I want to be able to get to a higher temperature rather soon. So basically what I want to do is try at least to do a gradient on a sweater that I've already knitted. So I will try to do this. And to do so, I'm going to, I know I don't have gloves on, just going to try to get it slowly but surely to strike. And it's a 1% depth of shade, but like it's a 1%, yeah, it's 1% stock solution of Deep Magenta. However, because I want to be able to have the top part like in a lighter shade, this is what we're doing. We're just gonna go up and down, and hopefully we are going to have a nice gradient. We should have a gradient. I just don't know how good it's going to be because I'm not used to do gradient. And I chose Deep Magenta because sometimes it's a little slower to strike. So we should be able to cover the entire cardigan that I have knit. For anyone wondering, it's the Jiji Cardi from Chantal Miziaganagi from Knititude. And I hadn't had a chance yet to block it, so that's what I'm going to be doing at the same time. Blocking. I just hope I'll be able to do a half decent job at doing a gradient. We shall see. I might not be able to do an actual gradient, but it's the thought that counts, right? I should have kept the hanger on us. Let's bring back the hanger just so we have somewhat of something happening gradually. And I think I'm just going to grab some help. I have this, my husband put a little hook on the side of my workspace for stuff like this. So my arms are not going to be too inconvenienced. And it's going to be a little easier to be doing the gradient that way because I won't be suffering. Okay, so I'm going to let this work a little bit, and I'm going to come back and work on this a little bit more. There we go. So what from now we're going to do is we're going to let this cook for 30 minutes, and then we're gonna let it completely cool off before washing off any excess dye and blocking it. See you later. Okay, let's do this. Uh, okay, I think I'll have achieved somewhat of a fade, and I've stained the bottom of my pot. So this is not the water that is pink. It's really, yeah, as you can see, it's the water isn't pink. It's really my pot that has stained at the bottom from the magenta. So that's something that you need to know about deep magenta, is that it will stain tiny bit. Okay, so I'm just going to let this soak a little bit, and then we're gonna come back for another soak, I guess. So I'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay. So even though everything was in the yarn and we didn't had any color left in the dye bath, sometimes, especially with the deep magenta, does have a tendency to bleed a little bit. So that's just unfortunately part of the game. I still have quite a bit of pink that needs to get out. Oh, this is so freaking cold. It's winter here, and like oh, the water is quite cold, and you can already see more. So I'll probably do a few more soaks, just to try to remove as much as I can. But oh, that's cold. I just can't deal with this. I can't feel my fingers, so one last soak, I think, and I'll call it a day, because I just can't stand the cold of the water. I'm sorry, friends, but it's hard. Yeah, it is quite hard. So there's some colors like that you will learn with time that they will always bleed no matter what you do. So you can even put them in Centropol to help a little bit, and you're still going to have some bleeding. It's just going to ensure that it will last longer. Okay, so we're just going to have to let this soak a tiny bit more, and then I'll be back in. That's going to be my last soak, because I just can't. Okay, so you can see it's not as bad, but I'm going to put this in the spin dryer to remove the excess water, and then I'm going to set it up on the blocking mat, and I will see you once it's finished blocking. And here's the final result for our dye of my cardigan that was already pre-knit. So I was attempting to do a fade, as you can remember, and the main reason I was using the pot is because I fear I wouldn't have been able to do a good job of the fade in the pan, because we would have had so much natural resistance in the dye bath that it would have been very difficult for me to adjust accordingly. We still can see some spot where we had resistance. However, it's not as bad as if it was in the in a pan. So this is the main reason I've used the pot instead. And yeah, so you can see here we have those natural resistance patches, but overall it isn't, considering it's the first time that I'm dyeing a garment like that, it's not that bad. Like, it could have been much worse, and I feel like I would almost have been able to do like a complete tonal in the pot with this kind of fiber, because this is chained from Lion Brand. Is it Lion Brand? Chained. Yeah, I believe Chained is from Lion Brand. I'll double check that. And it's a blown yarn, which means that there's a lot of pocket of air in the fiber, of the strands. So I think it helped a lot to have this almost even color overall the whole garment. So I'm pretty pleased with the result. It's, considering it's my first, I'm actually pretty happy with that. And you can see we had a 1% suck solution. So basically we used 1 gram for the entire garment, and we still have a pretty solid color at the bottom. So it's a pretty dark color. So when I say that you have to be careful with how much deep magenta you're using, that's also what I mean. Because deep magenta is deep. So yeah. Okay, so can we see a little bit more of this space here? Thank you, miss. Okay, move your butt over there. Okay, that's good. Yes, so you can see that here it's paler, and that the fade isn't necessarily as consistent as I wish it would be. It's a little patchy, but I think that's because I didn't move the garment as much once we were there, where we had a lot of movement when we were working the bottom of the garment. And I think if it wasn't a cardigan and it has been like an actual sweater or jumper, depending on which side of the pond you are on, I think we would have had a more consistent color grading. But, you know, it's all a learning curve. It was a very interesting thing to do. Next time we might try to do a garment and just... Anyways, I hope you liked the video, and if you did, please consider sharing, liking, and subscribing, and I will see you next one very soon. Bye!